Welcome to Creative Full Time. I'm your host, Allison Mullings. Today I'm speaking with actor, writer Marley and director producer Sabina about their original series, Like, Comment, Subscribe. Speaking of which, you could do that now. You could subscribe, you could like, and you can comment later. They have a special screening happening at TO Sketchfest March 14th. Get your tickets for it. I'm going to be there. I am so excited. They're going to be showing 5 episodes of their web series, and I am pumped. Before you get your tickets for Saturday, listen to this interview. I really loved hearing how it came to be, how it changed, how it evolved, and everything they had to adjust along the way. And all of the extra work that they had to do on top of it, solely because this is such a unique way of showing a web series. If you're like me and you believe that the Canadian entertainment industry needs to be highlighted more, hit that subscribe button for more episodes that are telling you what's going on in Toronto, independent shows that need to be highlighted, and amazing interviews with Canadian creatives. It doesn't cost you a damn thing. I will say welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. Absolutely love that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
My pleasure. I wanted to start off with, so you two are both the creator and then the director producer of Like, Comment, Subscribe, the web series, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. I
Fabulous.
am the writer, and then Sabina, director, showrunner.
Fabulous. And did you guys know each other a long time before, or how did you get to working together?
So Sabina, and I had a mutual friend essentially. And when my co-writer Connor and I were writing this, we started in the pandemic, like May of 2020. So we started writing this. Um, I think, like, at most, we thought maybe we would film it ourselves, like screen record the apps and stuff.
Uh,
And we were just looking for people to give us feedback on our initial scripts. And so Sabina, being an acquaintance of mine online, said like, "I'll read it, but like put it into here's like a free script software you can use. Like put it into a proper script, and I'll read it and let you know what I think." And then from there, once we had got some actual funding, we approached Sabina and she was like, "Yeah, I'll come direct it." And then for the actual like full length iteration, like Sabina's been a massive part of the creative direction, sitting in on story editing sessions, really like championing the like visual aspects of it as well.
nice. That's awesome. And so for funding, what did you guys do for funding? Did you apply to grants? Did you self-fund? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I can probably start the early history off. So we, Connor and I got an initial small grant from the Canada Council to write the initial scripts. And then we applied for an additional grant of about $5,000 to shoot our pilot episode, which was a proof of concept essentially. And that was through the Canada Council and CBC, because at the time they were trying to um, foster funding for people who were taking things from like a from theater perhaps from like a physical medium to a digital medium, given the landscape of COVID.
Right.
And then we went on to get another grant from them for about $100,000, just from the Canada Council this time. And again, that was a digital forward initiative. Um, that paid for most of the first season, but then we also did have to. We ran into some challenges, and we did have to crowdfund. We crowdfunded about $18,000 between cash, between in-kind donations, between like services donated to us. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then we did a little bit of like self-financing in the back end. So all like the promotional film festivals, basically majority of that has all been self. So it's like a combination, all of the above.
Nice. Yeah, it always blows my mind, like when I think about, because I haven't produced anything really, but when I think about budget, I'm thinking about like the days filming. But there's the whole post-production budget that you're like, oh yeah, I gotta pay somebody to edit this or edit it myself. And then the media and promoting it and the festival runs. And yeah, it's always like a shock on how much people spend on that as well as their project, because it's true, you do need a budget for that. It's quite a hefty.
Yeah. Yeah, and our post-production is wild.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about post-production.
Originally, when Marley and Connor first, I think, like, came up with the concept, which was really interesting about, like, influencers and sort of capturing influencers from a different perspective of, like, on the screen and behind the screen. When Marley kinda mentioned it, they came to me and they said, "Oh, like, we'll screen capture, like, we'll do, like, we'll just film the screens." Um the issue and the reason why no one has ever legitimately done this is because you can't, because everything you see on a screen is intellectual property, technically.
Oh.
So everything from like apps, the design of an app is intellectual property. The operating system of like a Mac or let's say you use like a PC and like Microsoft, like all of that is IP, and you need permission for every single thing. And so
No
um
way.
yeah, so the reason why there are no,
That's crazy.
screen life series about influencers is because it's really, really difficult, and almost you would think like, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do it." And so our biggest hurdle was that almost everything is animated. So every notification, every, like, press of, a mouse, every pop-up, we have 2 episodes with, Twitch streams, 1 episode with, like, a YouTube live stream, so every comment you see is animated, is, like, handwritten
Wow.
out as, like, a graphic design, and then put into After Effects and then animated to come up. Um,
Wow.
so our post production, and also because we luckily had some really incredible artists work with us for post production, but because we're such a tiny independent production, we also couldn't pay people to like capture them for months and months. So instead, so many people came on board as like a side thing. So, they would do their normal job. They would work on like a normal show. And then, like, evenings and weekends here and there over the course of a year, we did our post production. So, we filmed in 14 or 10 days. I think it was 10 days. And then our editing took, like, I'd say just over a year, all said and done.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
good to know. That's awesome. Because some people think, like, when you see something that's released, you're like, "Oh, they filmed that, like, last summer," and you're like, "No, this has been in the works
Yeah.
since the pandema-llama." Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And so how since the
Yeah.
pandemic of its inception, how many, like, versions has it taken on, or has it
Oh
just
my
kind of
god.
expanded?
No, it's really like during the pandemic, the initial season, like Connor and I had written a season where the events of like the catalyst for the events of the show are COVID. So the initial reason that you're seeing all these characters on screens is COVID. And then once we had kind of come out of COVID and were more seriously looking at producing this show, we had to question, will people still want to see? And we were starting to
Mm,
get the notion that they really wouldn't want to, because you started to see like medical dramas and stuff have to acknowledge COVID, of course, but you
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
hate to see it, and the ways in
Yeah.
which they did acknowledge it, you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of cringe that we got this like 10-minute acknowledgement of everything they went through during COVID. I think some handle it better than others, like the
yeah,
pit and its flashbacks to COVID, I think
yes.
are so real. Um, but yeah, we had to make the decision, and of course, at the time, to me and Connor, we were like, Sabine and our other producer were like, I think we need to shift this. And me and Connor were like, you want us to write a whole new season? But that seems so small in the amount of edits that have happened to the script, from principal photography to the like picture edit. And once the VFX went in, that's a whole different edit too, because we learned things that were or weren't going to work. Um, so I think I always say that, like, if we had known the mountain that we were gonna climb, like, I wouldn't change anything, but I don't know that we would have had the audacity to climb the mountain if we knew what it really, like, looked like.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. One little baby step at a
Yeah,
time is
very
how
much
it
that.
should go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so for festival run, you've been doing a festival run for the whole last year, right? What is
Yeah.
something what is something that you've learned along the way about doing a festival run?
Mm.
Um, I have a fun one. Is when we started this, Quibi was a thing, and
Mm,
Quibi was like short form content. And then throughout this, Quibi started, they got like their $1 billion in funding, then they went bankrupt, and then short form content became garbage. And then now there's a different type of short form content called like it's essentially like it started with the I think K dramas in short form,
mm,
and they're like these tiny little bits of very, very dramatic, like kind of like soap operas, and all like non-union, and that's now becoming a thing online and social media. And so when we started, we didn't we thought we were going to go in one direction, and we ended up pivoting and putting more of a focus on film festivals. And it was during the time that short form content was kind of going away. And we had a really tough time finding film festivals that would program short form content.
mm,
And like, especially film festivals that kind of like, this sounds ridiculous, but like meant something. Because you have something like, even here in Toronto, you have something like TIFF, and they have a series programming, but they're programming Apple TV shows.
mm.
They're not programming like a short form series, and not an indie one at that. They're doing huge things, and so it became really really difficult. And we started actually just and this is where Sketchfest is, we started just asking people if they would program us directly with the festival, rather than, hoping and praying that we would get to be in one of the few that programmed web series. So that was something that was very surprising throughout the process, and something that I think we learned. We didn't know when we started the festival circuit.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
that the festival circuit, while like it can be great, and like I still would recommend it to filmmakers, I think it is an industry of its own, and you kind of
Yes.
have to determine where the actual like return on investment is going to be when you do them, because it is so expensive to. We didn't attend all the festivals physically that we went to, but we went to New York City, we went to Montreal, and those come at because we didn't budget for festivals, because we didn't have the a budget that high. That's just our personal money that's coming out. So you kind of have to look at what are the sales opportunities at these festivals? Like, is there a real
Yeah.
marketplace for selling your show? And the thing about a lot of them are film festivals, right? So you can sell a feature a lot easier than you can sell a short form series, especially because the web series category is so young in a lot of these festivals too.
mm,
Um, yeah, so that we just started kind of looking at where we could bend the rules of, okay, Sketchfest seems like a really good vibe fit for us.
Yeah.
mm.
Will they consider it? And of course they were open-minded enough to do something new that they've never done before and do a feature presentation, a special screening.
And you're saying to entering festivals in one way rather than the traditional way. What's the difference between the two?
I,
That the difference is that Sketchfest doesn't have a series category, for example. So they have a comedy shorts category. So initially we submitted as a comedy short, hoping that they would see it as more, and we were lucky that they did.
Yeah,
Whereas
okay.
previously we were limiting ourselves to festivals that only had, let's say, a pilot category. Um,
Okay.
or exactly, that will take episodes. And we did get into a couple of those, but it's not always the best fit for a web series.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like our pilot is 7 minutes. Like it's and we're introducing a whole story, we're introducing a bunch of characters as like a pilot does, but we were going up against a traditional pilot that was 30 minutes, or some even like 60 minutes. So, when you have 7 minutes versus 60 minutes, and the 60-minute pilot has like a huge, movie star, like we're just not it was difficult. It was difficult.
Yeah, for sure. But that's interesting to know and like good to know that you can get creative with festival submissions too. Like that's such a good idea.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
send
Yeah.
a lot of emails.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah, some
That
LinkedIn
is awesome.
messages, like, we've gotten very, very creative.
That's fantastic. And so now we're coming up to the end of your year and a bit tour with Toronto Sketch Fest. And
Mhm.
when is your screening happening?
It is March 14th. It's a Saturday. We are screening from 4 p.m. To 5:30. Part of that is a Q&A though with us where we'll talk about making the series and all kinds of things. And we're screening 5 episodes, which is really exciting because we haven't done that many episodes in New York, which was our world premiere. We only showed 1 episode, and then our Canadian premiere was in Montreal, and we showed 2 episodes. So this is really exciting. It's also exciting that we're going to have our people here because those were rooms where we had just met everybody. And so it's going to be so exciting because a lot of the cast and crew haven't seen the finished product or haven't seen even some of them haven't even seen
Nice.
bits of the finished product. So
No.
I'm excited for them to see their work in context.
Oh, that's amazing. And how many episodes is it in total?
8.
8. Okay, perfect. So we'll see 5 out of the 8. And then you're also going to be on YouTube soon, I hear.
Yes, we can't totally speak to it because we're trying
Okay.
to like do some things with YouTube.
Okay.
Um yes, but that is our plan. We have also exhausted like all the conversations. We've talked to everyone, like where should we go? Where should we, end up on what platform? And I think because we filmed this 4 years ago, it's about influencers after many conversations, so many people and like big managers from big agencies, like big producers that we know, like we said, like, oh, there's like Canadian platforms. We're a queer team. It's about queer characters. We could go somewhere like Out TV. We could, and like listing a bunch of things. And it ultimately came down to if you want the most possible eyes on something and it's about the internet and it's about influencers, go to YouTube.
Mm.
So now we've this was we've decided this about 6 or 7 months ago, and now it's about the strategy of YouTube because it is such a saturated market. So now we're kind of this is where the talking is where we're kind of just finessing the little final details of where exactly we're going to end up on YouTube and how it will come out. But YouTube is the plan to sort of capitalize on what the show is about and to get as many eyeballs on it and to get people talking about it.
Fantastic. So as a director, what was the most challenging part of this project for you?
The most challenging, which Marley will maybe even say was part of the acting challenging as well, was that because everything is like this kind of, filmed like a Zoom or, FaceTimes and all these little bits, you have to film every square individually
Mm.
and there's no coverage. So traditionally, you film a wide, then you go in for a medium, maybe you do a close up. Especially if a conversation, you get multiple angles, you can cut in between. If you don't like this choice, or maybe an actor like flubs a line, or something like that, like you can cut to hide things. Where in our wonderful medium, when you have a FaceTime, everything exists on the screen at the exact same time,
Mm.
so you don't have the same luxury to be able to like cut away to hide something, or to have something flow faster. So some issues that we even had on set where the actors could not act off of each other, which sometimes happens in like phone calls, when you're filming that, or there are FaceTimes that exist on a lot of other film and television. But for us, the entirety of it was like that. So there were days where Marley did not have any of the co-stars that she was acting off of, where she was literally reading, or she was performing, and our script super was reading the
Mm.
lines. So
Okay.
it's difficult to even like pull stuff and to be like, okay, well, let's imagine all of this, or we don't have any of the graphics made. We didn't have previs, which that's a luxury that you get when you have a very large VFX budget, which we didn't. So for us, there a lot of, like we would go off of screenshots, like, hey, this is how I want the screen to look. This is essentially what you think you'll be seeing, but we didn't really have it. So it was a lot of imagination, and a lot of, figuring it out once we got to post, and like hoping and praying, like, okay, we've prepped as much as we can. and there's nothing more we can prep, and we're just gonna hope it all looks good later in post. And it did, and we found ways to cut around things. We would go in on and make things full screen and cut away in a way to sort of hide things in a way. We also there's a thing in post software called fluid morph, and you kind of take two clips that have a cut between them, and it kind of morphs the two so it doesn't look like there's a cut.
Oh.
So yeah, and it kind of like if you're staring at it, you would maybe notice that, maybe a head goes like this and does like a weird little thing. But for the most part, like fluid morph saved so many of those tiny little things that we just could not work around.
Mm.
Not sponsored by Fluid Morph, but but would love to be.
Yeah, yeah, please
That's
fluid morph.
that's so cool. I didn't even know that existed. So that's really cool to know. And yeah, that would
Yeah, it was
make
our
it
editor.
hard. Yeah, that would make it hard for shooting. Was there any point like let's say something pops up on the screen and the actor's supposed to like look over here to look at the screen, but in post you're like, "Oh no, it wouldn't be there," or any kind of things like that that you had to switch around?
So many. Like so many. I would say it was, yeah. Yeah, like it so many things.
That's
Because
so funny.
the other thing is that we had all of our graphics, and then we placed them. And when we placed them, things they weren't working. They had to be changed. They had to be altered. Like, oh, the timing of this is not working out, or we thought it would look cool like this, but it turns out we actually wanted to look a little different, or we had to adjust because like some of them were so difficult. Like Twitch, I think was the most difficult overall. We spent way too much time building that, but it looks incredible. But on
Mm,
Twitch, you have the view count, which rises and comes down as people come in and out. You have people writing comments, which changes. You have even like there's things called bits that people like make donations and make people subscribe and we wanted to capture all of this. And
mm,
so all of those things drastically changed once we started putting in the graphics and started timing things, and you had to then change the graphics to accommodate the performances. You had to then edit the performances to help with timing of graphics because the actors are reacting to things. We have people reacting to notifications, we have people, and you see eye lines and stuff like that. So much changed a million
wow.
times. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of work. And for you, Marley, what was the most difficult part about um let's start with writing the writing process. What was the most difficult part about the writing process?
I think having very few examples of a screen life script to go on, how do you communicate the like stage directions of what's happening on the screen? We had to develop really our own like language to and get so hyper specific about like this. You see the mouse travel to here, it opens this, and at times very frustrating to be like, why don't you just understand what's in my head? But of course, I have to communicate it properly. Um, and then I think the most unexpected thing that I didn't realize we would have to do is because the show, as Savina said, has like the Twitch chat and comments on posts. Those like ones that are very plot driven are written into the script, like ones that are major and like tell something about the story. But we also just populate the screen. They're almost like extras in a way. So
Mm.
just like Excel spreadsheets of me and Connor writing comments. And like some of them make sense and they're Easter eggs. They're like mini character arcs of the commenters in there. And it's stuff that no one, unless they watch the show 100 times, will notice. But
Or
yeah,
like pause.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, there's a character called Dean who's a Twitch streamer. He has a stalker in the comments that's like obsessed with
Yeah.
him and therefore hates my character Megan when things start to get
No
like a little
way.
romantic. Um and then yeah, there's just like even it was fun writing all the like the banalities of like people spelling things wrong and like just random stuff that is being said, but it took hours.
Yeah.
And then sometimes VFX
Yeah.
would come back to us and say, I don't have enough, so I actually need 100 more comments. We'd be like, okay,
Oh
back to
my
it,
gosh.
type them out.
That is so cool. And yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. That is a whole bunch of extras. And how fun to just like get into the mind of like hundreds of different people and just
Yeah, totally.
pretend to
And be like,
comment
these,
like an
yeah.
asshole or a huge fan.
Yeah.
Or a 12-year-old year
That's-
old, like that doesn't know who
yeah,
Madonna is or something. Yeah.
that is so cool. Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
And what was the most difficult part about the acting process for you?
I think so. As Sabina said, there is that your scene partner isn't there a lot of the time. But I think for especially characters who are very like loquacious, chatty characters that have a lot of like dialogue, it's because it's one setup, it's simply more pages that you need to have prepped for the day. Because you can only get through so much if we're getting, 3, 4 angles of you. But I know for Paloma Nunez, who played my mom, Sasha, um, her character talks. And just the amount of pages and exposition, like important story points that she had to hit. I know that she was like, this was a workout. At the end of her day, she was like 20 pages.
Yeah. I did
Wow.
20
Absolutely
pages in
crazy.
one day.
Jeez, yeah, that's a lot. That's like a
Yeah,
play.
It, it,
totally.
it,
It really is. Yeah.
but you're sitting. You're
Yeah.
sitting in like one
Yeah.
spot. And so it's even more difficult because like when you're doing like a play, you can like kind of know when you take certain steps or certain beats or certain like movements, like you're supposed to be here by this time and this
Yes.
word and you're like, but we have none of that. You're sitting in one chair. We like change it slightly so it felt
Yeah.
like the laptop maybe moved like a couple inches or turned slightly. We would change like costumes as well for different days to kind of hopefully
Mm.
make it, a little bit more interesting for the actors. But yeah, there's a couple of those.
I think also, not necessarily child, but just kind of like a aw. My character has so many good looks, like some really fabulous hair and makeup. And just because we were able to shoot scenes so quickly, I remember one day we killed like 3 fantastic looks, like in the course of like one day. And then it's kind of like, oh, I wanted to wear this makeup home, or like I wanted a bit more time in this hair and makeup, but like they have to switch me to my next look. Um, and I had a favorite look with like this pink um, eyeliner that was very, like, artistic, and it was
Mm.
shot out within, like, an hour, and I was like, "God," but it's immortalized on screen.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, I love a good hair and makeup. Every time somebody does it really well on me, I'm like, "Can you teach me your ways?"
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. That is so fun. Maybe we should talk about the plot.
yeah,
Maybe-
okay,
I'm
fair
just
enough.
so obsessed with the process. I forgot.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
Tell us about what comment, like, subscribe is about, or like, comment, subscribe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is all about.
Yeah, so, like, comment, subscribe follows 2 problematic influencers named Megan and Avery. Megan is played by myself, Avery is played by my co-writer, Connor Ferris. Um Uh, and when we meet them, they are at the onset of an internet scandal. So Megan's mother owns a vegan leather empire called Vag. And they have made a problematic commercial when you first meet them. And the rest of the series follows them trying to come back from that, but unfortunately not really having the wherewithal to do so effectively initially. And then with Avery's character, he's broke. He's moved into Megan's home. Um, he becomes motivated to do some really crazy things throughout the course of the series because of this desperation. And then for my character Megan, she's really questioning her content at this point. She has essentially like a momager um, who is pushing her in one direction, and she is kind of questioning her place as an influencer.
Hmm.
Yeah, and of course, it
Fantastic.
happens on the screens, apps, devices that the characters actually use. So, yeah, you see the story entirely through those lenses.
That is so unique. That is so cool. And I have a cool little fill in the blank that I like to do.
Yeah.
Is if you like blank, you like this show. And it could be another show, it could be a genre, it could be,
Yeah.
you're both laughing. What
No,
came
because
up
we
for
we
you?
have we really share some like extreme affinities for things. Our
Yeah,
most
yeah.
extreme affinity is, and we didn't really realize how big an influence this movie had on us until making LCS. We were like, oh, this is why our satire is the way it is.
Yes.
Is Josie and the Pussycats, the like I think 2001
Excellent.
film.
Yeah,
Yes.
2001.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
think watching that as a kid, and I think Sabina, you shared an interview with uh what's his name? He just hosted the BAFTAs.
Alan Cummings.
Of course, with Alan Cummings, who said that, like, at the time, it was marketed towards younger kids who wouldn't necessarily get the satire of it. I don't think I did get the satire at the time,
No.
but now I
Mhm.
recognize it for what it is. And so it's I
Yes.
think LCS shares that bright, and of course, that was a commentary on capitalism and how pop culture and media are used. So I think, yeah, that bright, larger than life kind of satire, it
Yes.
really
Very
speaks to us both.
absolutely very silly, like the characters being so much bigger.
Mhm.
Especially like Parker Posey and Alan Cummings characters, I would say. Also the boy group, which is like reminiscent of like
Du jour.
Backstreet Boys. Yeah, du
Yeah,
jour.
yeah.
In sync. Like they're so much bigger than
Mm.
the actual pussycats are. Like the three of them. The three of them are actually pretty grounded compared to every other character. And so for LCS as well, like we have some like very larger than life character moments. And yeah, I don't think we realized it until we actually I would say we were in post,
Mhm.
Molly. We were in post when we realized how much of an influence it was, and for both of us, and how yeah, I would say it ended up being a huge reference.
That's awesome. I love that. I think I saw that interview that you're talking about where he's like, it was before its time and marketed totally incorrectly.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
like, it was supposed to be like for adults, but it was marketed to 12-year-olds. And we're like, but we loved it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, like I would argue it's one of the greatest satires ever. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
ever across the board. I think that people should actually go back and watch it because
Yes.
so much of it is prevalent even in today's culture of how influence actually exists in like younger generations and like materialism and capitalism. It like
Mhm.
and they use like the subliminal messages and like songs
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so much of it even today we're like, wait, hold on a second, what were they selling us, what?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's actually a very very smart movie and more
Mhm.
people should love it.
Yeah. That's everybody's homework this week is go
Yeah,
watch Josie and the Pussycats and
so
then buy
yes,
tickets to your show,
yes
to the
please,
screening
Yes.
and see 5 whole episodes.
yeah.
What is something I'll start with you, Sabina. What is something that you wish people knew about either directing or producing?
Okay, so the directing and the producing hat are like vastly different but have a fun little overlap. um I think for directing it is that being a director is not about controlling everybody. And I wholeheartedly disagree when people say that a director needs to have the answers to everything.
Well,
I don't think that's correct. I think you should be able to figure out the answer to everything, not that you have the answer. Because part of being a director is also being very malleable constantly and constantly having to shift because everything could go wrong at any moment. And you could think you have it all figured out, or you could think that the way you want the scene is going to be is exactly how it's going to be in your head. And then an actor comes on and they do something completely different and it's incredible. And you have to be okay with being wrong. You
mm,
have to be okay with like, oh, like that's way better than I ever imagined. Or hey, I really loved what you did in the first half, but can we shift it to what I did what I was thinking in the second half, and it's constantly being malleable. So when people say like, oh yeah, you have to have all the answers all the time. No. Directing is more so about being like the number one collaborator of steering and being able to steer the ship. But if there is a rock that you did not anticipate or an iceberg, you have to steer, and you need your whole crew to help steer. Like, everyone does their part
Yeah, yeah.
to help move the ship so we don't hit the iceberg. Or if you hit the iceberg, everyone's got to figure out how to, work together to make sure that we don't all die and the ship goes down. So I
I'm
would say,
loving
yeah,
this analogy. This
thank you
is
so much.
great.
Thank you. Yeah, my big thing is when people say like, oh, directors have to have all the answers and you're controlling everything. It's like, no, 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 no. Stop that. Don't like it. The idea that a director, like a film is by one singular person, I think is very silly. It's
Mm,
not. It's by, anywhere from, in our case, maybe 50 people to a larger film where it's like 500 people
mhm.
added to this incredible story and this vision. So that's my big thing about directing. Producing, uh, also be prepared for everything to go wrong at all times. But also I would say a producer's big thing is being able to help when necessary, but not always trying to help.
Mm,
I think that's kind of the thing is like you producers really you need to know like, well, when is it important for you to step in and when is it not? Because there are so many, especially on a series where a feature is a little different, where it's usually just the director who steers. Where the series, it was not just me. There were so many moments where I would turn to Marley and Connor, even though like I was show running, they still wrote it, they still created the concept of it, and they were leading it on screen. And so there were so many moments where I would come to them and say, like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm thinking this, and it's important for a producer to kind of let people do the thing and then come in when necessary and then come out when necessary and be like the support.
nice. I like that. I like that a lot. And Marley, for you, what is something that you wish people knew about A, writing, and then B, acting?
I think I think as a writer, I think that if you are someone, so this was my first ever screenplay. I had written work for the stage before, but this was my first ever screenplay. And I think now I feel comfortable writing my own work. But at the time, I don't think if I didn't have Connor, I don't think I would have been able to do as much. I think, and so what I would recommend if you're a new writer or someone who wants to build their writing practice is finding someone to be accountable to, because Connor really the beautiful thing about our relationship is that we're both type A's. And so when we were writing this thing, like we really like held each other accountable for being rigorous and not just saying that's good enough. We really pushed to be like, no, it can be funnier, or it's not quite the right wording yet. So I recommend to any artist that if you're just getting started, like you can gain so much from working with other people and gain skills and share skills. And as an actor, I think, well, I definitely have met actors even recently. Actors have expressed that they would like to create their own work, but they don't really necessarily feel connected to writing. And I don't know if maybe it's not for every actor to be a producer and a writer. But I think if you do have that spark inside of you, I think it's a superpower. I think there's such a lack of control in the industry as an actor. And I think if you can choose yourself and advocate for yourself and cast yourself and give yourself the gift of a character arc over a season, um, that is power. Um, Even if it's just that you've made a short film and you have stuff to put on your reel that looks good, or and that is a character that you want casting to see you as. So
Mm,
I really, really encourage actors to make their own stuff.
fabulous. Fantastic. And anything else that you wanted to talk about more or wanted to talk about before I ask you a final little question?
I would say that people should follow us on socials because we have a lot of fun, very fun
Yeah.
content coming that kind of holds hands with the episodes,
Yes.
that works in tandem with watching the episodes. So YouTube, hopefully that announcement will come soon. But you can find us already on Instagram at LCS Series and on TikTok at LCS Series. And we're already quite active on those platforms.
Fabulous. Excellent. And my final question to you is, if you could give this chapter in your life a title, what title would you give it?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
Mm. Screen Life. I don't know. Screen Life Series. The time I made a Screen Life series for 6 years. My life's
That
work.
brief 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine would be something about delusion. I'm on this
Yeah.
I'm on this very big be more delusional kind of moment in my life,
Yes.
where I think I've been very realistic for so many years. And maybe this is like the producer hat of being like, okay, it's got to be like this, and we got to do this, and this, and that's not realistic. That'll never happen. And I think I'm now trying to be a little bit more delusional and leaning into the delusion a little bit.
Nice.
I
I
think
like that.
no, I know you need delusion if you
Mhm.
ever want to do anything in
Yes.
any sort of art form as a career.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We love the Delulu.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me today. And one more time for the people, if you would like to say when your screening is happening and where they can get tickets.
So we are screening Saturday, March 14th from 4 o'clock to 5:30 at Toronto Sketch Fest. The actual venue is the Theatre Centre in downtown Toronto, and you can get tickets on the Sketchfest website, but you can find that link on our socials. It's in our bios. It's in our personal bios too. It's everywhere.
Yes.
Fabulous. And all links and socials will be below. So check them out and get your tickets.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you
Well,
for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to this episode. I learned so much. I loved learning about the festival rounds. That was so interesting to me. But you tell me what your biggest takeaway from this interview was below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next interview.